In this video, I'm going to show you my step-by-step approach for color grading car videos in DaVinci Resolve. Let's get to it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the node tree and how I have this set up. This half on the left is my primary grade, and the nodes on the right are my secondary grade. The first node is a color space transform, and I have it set to my camera settings, this was recorded in Fuji F-Log. So my input color space is Rec 2020, input gamma Fuji F-Log. I have my output color space set to DaVinci Wide Gamut and my output gamma to DaVinci Intermediate. I have another color space transform which inputs the DaVinci Wide Gamut and then outputs it to Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. So here's the footage in its original log profile, and here it is with the color space transform nodes applied. The next node is for noise reduction. I always have this one turned off because it just eats up a lot of computer processing power and makes the software just really lag. Therefore, I just keep it clicked off until I'm done grading, and then we'll fix any noise issues if there are any. So first, let's just raise the exposure up a little bit with the offset wheel. And then I want to pull down the lift to kind of pull my black darks and shadows. Then pull up the gamma. It's pretty good. Don't want to push it too much. I'm kind of losing some detail here. But we can try pulling down the highlights maybe a little bit. Maybe I can lift the shadows just slightly. That's a good start. So now let's adjust the contrast. And how I like to do it is with the curves tool. Make sure you select editable splines. Now, one thing you want to do as you're grading is always hit Command D or Control D, I guess, on Windows. And so you can see the adjustments that you're making. The next node is saturation. The way I have this set up is I have in color space, I have it selected to HSV. So if you right click on saturation, go to color space, select HSV, and then go to channels and deselect channel 1 and channel 3. And what this will do is give you a lot more flexibility in adjusting the saturation. When you adjust the gamma, it's adjusting the saturation for the entire image, and the gain, it focuses more on the most saturated parts of the image. You can fact check me on that in the comments. Let me switch to the vector scope and kind of see, yeah, we definitely got some room we can work with. Before, after. Next, let's adjust the white balance. And I like to do this after I've added some saturation because it really helps you see any colors that might be a little off. With the qualifier tool selected, right click and select show picker RGB value. And that will show you how balanced certain parts of the image are. What I'm really wanting to do is go to areas that should be neutral and make sure that that's balanced. And then I know I have a really good white balance. So before, after. The other thing I'm noticing is we got the kind of the blues kind of peaking, which you can kind of see on top of the cars. So I think I'm going to just go to try to get a color mixer and just pull that down a little bit. Before, after. Next is my curves window. I really don't use this too much. It's just if I need to make any additional tweaks or if I have some real issues with over or underexposed area. I don't have that issue too much in this clip. So let's move on to the HDR wheels. This will help me kind of shape the image a little bit, maybe bring out some of the details and the shadows, clean up some of the highlights. So now I'm going to use the warper tool to really balance out the image and try to fix any color casts. before I move on to the secondary grade. And I like to have it set to HSP log. And I'll just select in, let's try this. And so I'll just select on areas like these blues and just pull down the saturation. Not too much, but just enough so it's not pissing me off. So before, after. So now we are ready for the secondary grade. The first thing I'm going to do is adjust my blacks. So I have the qualifier tool selected, and we're just going to click and drag it and hit Shift H. Now kind of show me what I've selected. So it's going to adjust it until only the blacks are selected. Now that I have my blacks selected, I'm going to go to the curves, hue versus saturation, and just going to click in these areas, in the dark areas, and just pull the saturation down. The next thing I want to do is create a mask around the car and basically clean up the paint job, fixing some of these blue casts so they don't affect the background. So we're going to go into the power windows and click on the curve tool. Right, and then I'm going to go ahead and track that. And then we're going to add a little softness to it. So using the color warper, I'm going to select a few areas that are like this windshield here. I could tone that down a little bit. The next thing I want to do is kind of bring out the grass looks a little kind of burnt looking. So let's see if we can brighten that up a little bit and make it a little more lush. Using the qualifier, I'll kind of select that area. And this time we'll go to the color splice tool, put a little fertilizer on it, if you will. And you can also adjust the brightness. Expand this out a little bit more. Much better. The next one, I don't know why I call it this, but I'm going to call it should be called vignette. And it's exactly, I think that's spelled right. So what I'm going to do is, so I have a power window over the car, and I'm going to track it. So I'm going to track it, but I'm going to deselect perspective, rotate, and just keep these three on. And that way it works kind of like a spotlight almost. Then I'll go back to the power window tab and invert it. Go to HDR and just pull the exposure down a little. And I'm going to hit Option H so we don't see the power window. So here's before and there's after. Again, you want it very subtle, but it definitely helps it pop a little bit more. Now I'm going to create another power window, and this time I'm going to sharpen. So this is definitely something you don't want to overdo, but it definitely kind of brings out a little bit of those details. And if you add any noise reduction later, it's definitely going to be helpful so it doesn't look too smudgy. Smudgy? Smudgy. Before, there's after. And again, I'll want to track that. And so before, after. The next two nodes are gradient nodes. So we'll start off with the bottom one. Do the same for the top. So before, after. So my next node is the look node, which sometimes I'll give something a particular look. I'm actually pretty pleased with the look of this one already. I might make some minor adjustments and just make some final tweaks. The final node is after the Rec 709 node, and this is basically a curves node that just kind of tightens the image up a little bit. And so I'll make 3 dots here, and we're just going to make an S curve. And there you have it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, go ahead and smash that like button and also hit the subscribe button so you can be the first to get real-life actionable tips on how to improve your video production skills. My name is Andrew Cooper, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.